This week, we're discussing fall color in Illinois, and I'm sharing 3 of my best fall color tips. You are listening to the LAKESCAPE Photography Podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the LAKESCAPE Photography Podcast. I am your host, Nicholas Albert, and believe it or not, we are on episode 29. This has been an awesome year, awesome journey to this point, and the fact that we are already in October, fall colors, just as you guys have heard on some of the previous discussions, as we round out the countdown to fall color, it is the best time of year to be a photographer. There's just nothing that beats it. Very excited. I'm actually recording this episode just a couple days before I leave for my Upper Peninsula fall colors trip. I'm going to be starting up in the Upper Peninsula, moving down into Wisconsin, and eventually back into my home state of Illinois. And just really looking forward to all the adventures that are ahead, the people I'm going to meet, the places I'm going to go, the experiences that I'm going to have. And I hope that you guys are doing all of those things and just enjoying it the same. I wish you all an awesome fall color season. And really just, I hope you guys have the best fall possible. In this episode, I'm going to go into detail on fall color here in Illinois. We've covered Indiana, we've covered Michigan, we've covered Wisconsin. I'm going to jump into Illinois here and give you guys a little bit of my take on fall color in my home state here and why I think it still has some pretty cool spots, even though it's kind of underrated for landscape photography and just getting out and seeing some cool stuff. So, without any further delay, let's just jump right in. Illinois, it might not have mountain ranges, but it does have a great mix of forests, bluffs, waterways. Makes for some really good autumn photography. Fall, it gets here and you blink your eyes, it's gone, but timing, preparation, all that stuff, it matters, just like in all the other states. And we're going to dig into all of this and share some of my favorite spots. And at the end, I'm going to give you guys 3 of my own personal tips for fall color, wherever you might be in the world. So, let's talk about Illinois. Believe it or not, Illinois actually has more than 250 native tree species. And because of that, there's a lot of different colors here in the trees in Illinois. It's really neat to see all the different colors, just like you would get in all the other states around us in the Great Lakes region. And typically, you're going to start seeing color in a few specific areas, I'd say a little bit earlier than others. Like, I have noticed over the years that low-lying areas along the river, they kind of take a little bit longer, but you can start seeing fall color in just your everyday parks, your forest preserves, and sometimes you get those trees that change earlier than all the others, and you can get some really cool isolated colors in those situations. Unfortunately, this year I have not come across a scene like that yet, but still plenty of time. As that color progression moves from north to south, it's going to start up at a few of my favorite places and then end in a location that I haven't been to yet, but I want to get there. And we're going to talk about that here too in a moment. But the other thing that I want to point out is the waterways that Illinois has. There's the Illinois, the Mississippi River. You have the coast of Lake Michigan. There's some pretty good opportunities For reflections, there's some bluffs, there's some overlooks. There's some pretty cool stuff out there once you actually start looking around and really digging into what the state offers. So let's jump in. I'm going to cover my top 5 places to see fall color in Illinois, share them with you guys. If you are listening, you're in Illinois, maybe you're driving through Illinois, definitely worth checking these places out. First, you guys probably already know, especially if you look at my portfolio, you're going to see a lot of pictures from here, but Starved Rock State Park. Overlooks, canyons, sandstone bluffs, really cool place. After a good rainfall, you get really great waterfall scenes. But the thing that I really like about it is that you can really lean into your full kit when you're there. And what I mean by that is you have wide angle views from bluffs. You can get the full sweep of colors, or you can get down into the canyons and you can put on a telephoto or even a mid-range zoom and get more intimate compositions framed with glowing leaves. You can frame up the canyon walls, get some really neat perspectives, and just simplify the scene. It's a really cool area. It's a very popular spot. If you do decide that you're going to make a trip over there, I highly recommend get there early in the day, because by 10 a.m., you're going to be hard pressed to find a parking spot anywhere. Right next to Starved Rock is Mathiasen State Park, and it's just south of Starved Rock with some pretty great water features. It also has the rock formations, the sandstone bluffs, all that good stuff. But there's some much bigger waterfalls there that I go to and shoot quite frequently, really all throughout the year. Winter, spring, summer, fall. I typically find myself either at Starved Rock or Mathiasen State Park because there's just such a wide variety of subjects and scenes. And again, similar to Starved Rock, you can go wide angle or you can get down into those canyons. You can use that telephoto lens and start compressing. You can start simplifying. 2 absolutely awesome places to just practice different approaches to landscape photography. And believe it or not, it was my stomping grounds 15, 20 years ago now. When I first started getting into landscape photography, I spent almost every weekend, every other weekend there, just practicing, learning all kinds of different things to understand my equipment better. And I owe a lot to both of those places. So when October rolls around, I always make a trip. I always stop by and just pay it its respects. I'll spend a little bit of time at Starved Rock in the morning and then go over to Mathiasen in the evening or vice versa. All really depends on the color progression and the conditions and whether waterfalls are flowing, but you can check up on all that stuff. Before you go, there's a couple great websites for both of these places. I'll include those in the show links so that you guys can check them out if you're interested. Next up, Shawnee National Forest. This is also known as Garden of the Gods. More dramatic sandstone outcrops, beautiful views, great bluff views. Now, full disclosure, I've driven through the area, but I've never actually stopped. I'm going to try and change that this year. Right now, in Illinois and really in a lot of places, there's a bit of a drought going on. So the color change in Shawnee National Forest isn't as epic as it has been in previous years, or so I'm told. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I want to see what's going to happen. But later on, at the end of October, beginning of November, if it does turn out that there's an opportunity for some good color, I'm definitely going to swing through here. But you have those big sweeping views off of these bluffs. You've got the sunrise light hitting the sandstone against that canopy of color. There's a wide variety of different hardwoods that create different patchworks of color once you're up on the overlooks. And there's a lot of waterfalls in the area too. You can get down there and explore, take in the different scenes and views from the overlooks, and then go down into the interior, take a look around. find waterfalls, find those little hidden areas in the forest that really speak to you. That's something that I really do all over the place, especially if there's bluffs involved, but definitely worth checking out if you're going there. And I will be reporting back on my experience if I do end up going there to close out my fall color adventure this year. Now, this one I have been to a few times, and I can say it is absolutely beautiful. And that is the Great River Road or Mississippi River Bluffs. There is something to be said about this area. It doesn't feel like it's in Illinois. You don't feel like this should exist here, if that makes sense. But there's a scenic byway that goes from Alton to Grafton, and it is just immensely beautiful. You have these huge bluffs that overlook the Mississippi River, lots of color in October, and you have the river there to add that extra element, that extra piece to your scene. And that's something that I've noticed I'm very much so attracted to in a lot of my work. And in the previous episode with Douglas Jones, he actually mentioned it, and I forgot to comment on his mention of this, but he had mentioned in the episode that he likes to include water in his scenes. Being in the Great Lakes, that makes sense. And I'm very much so the same way, where I like to include the lakes. I like to include a water element, maybe a river, a waterfall, something of that nature. And along the Great River Road, you can do so much. There's plenty of great overlooks. Sunsets are especially beautiful because you've got those amazing river reflections amplifying those warm tones. And if you get there early in the morning, sometimes you can get lucky enough to catch fog rolling off the river. Creates that nice October mood, that depth, that emotional resonance. Very, very cool place. Highly recommend you go check it out if you haven't. One of my favorite places in Illinois, and admittedly, I don't spend enough time there, but there's some plans in the works for next year to go and check out some of these areas a little bit more. So we'll get into that in a later episode. But last but not least, the Morton Arboretum. This is in Lisle. It's about 45 minutes west of Chicago, maybe not even that. What's special about this place is it's a curated preservation of all types of different tree species. That means that you're going to have pretty much every color in the spectrum represented in this place. Very easy access for photographers in the northern part of the state, especially those of you who might be in Chicago or nearby. Easy access. There's trails designed for scenic views. It's not difficult hiking. You're really just kind of walking around this place and taking in these different variations of trees. They've got some great water features there, and it's a great spot for practicing compositions, from big picture landscapes to those single leaf isolated images. It's a place that I like to go to when I just want to experiment and I want to try different things, try different approaches in bringing order from chaos. What I mean by that is those interior forest scenes where there's a lot of different things going on. There's branches in every which way. There's trees here and bushes there and undergrowth there. When you go to places like this and you just kind of sit down, you take your time, you work with the scene, it teaches you how to simplify these things, how to dial it in and really just finish out a shot strong and make it powerful through simplification. Lots of time spent at the Morton Arboretum over the years. I highly recommend you guys go check it out if you haven't yet, or if you're in the area. Definitely one of my favorite places. Now, as fall progresses, we're all going to be excited. We're all going to be looking for places to go, wanting to just get out and explore and just soak it all in. The big challenge I think most people face with fall color, October, it's timing. Colors peak quickly. Wind and rain can drop leaves within days. Flexibility and scouting, those are going to be your best friends because, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, throughout the countdown to fall color, giving yourself 1, maybe 2 days in a location, it's probably not going to be enough. You want to be able to dedicate at least 4 or 5 days to exploring an area with fall color. And Illinois is no exception. There's been times where I've driven to Starved Rock, where I've driven to the Morton Arboretum, all kinds of different places. And maybe on Monday, color's not all that great. But then I come back on Wednesday and color has peaked. It can happen that fast. So just be patient with yourselves, scout, maintain flexibility, and just be paying close attention to wherever you might be as you chase fall colors. Now, to close this episode out, I want to leave you guys with 3 tips for fall color that are straight from my playbook, straight from how I approach October, how I approach fall. We're going to start off with what I just kind of sort of touched on. Scout ahead, track progression. You can use state color trackers and local park updates. As we've discussed on some of the previous episodes, they're very much so hit or miss. Once you're familiar with an area, you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly if it's going to be even remotely accurate. But as you use these tools, just remember, they're just a guess. My best advice is to return multiple times. Early, peak, and even past peak color for variety. Now, I understand not everybody can do that. And if you can't, don't worry about it. Don't panic. It's not end all be all rule. But if you can get there and dedicate those 4 or 5 days, even 3 days, you can really set yourself up for success. And even if you get there a little early, like I said, those little standout trees, maybe you can isolate them. Or you get there and it's past peak. Well, just because the leaves are coming down doesn't mean that photography is impossible. Go find some interior waterfalls. Go find maybe a river where you can get the nice fallen leaves along the riverbank. Maybe there's some dark rock. You can get that nice contrast in there. But scouting ahead and being open to those possibilities, that's really key. And don't hesitate to explore back roads for those unexpected scenes. Everybody that we've had on the show has said this same thing, and at risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm going to say it again. Get out there, explore the back roads, look for those unexpected scenes. Really take your adventure to heart. Make adventure the primary goal when you're out there, because that adventure is unique to you, and that translates to your experience. And in my approach to landscape photography, everything is derived from my personal experience while I'm out there. And having a good experience, discovering new things, it's going to get you excited. You're going to be pumped up, ready to go, and you're just going to be sharing that through your lens. Definitely cannot recommend enough personalized adventures. As you're scouting ahead and tracking progression and taking these adventures and looking for peak color, even if you're a little early, you hit peak right on the money, or if you're a little bit past peak, don't worry about it. Just make the best of it. Now, if you want to track progression accurately, my number one recommendation is to just follow social media. But be careful with that because a lot of people, myself included, we post pictures from previous years, and I am equally guilty of this. I very frequently forget to include, hey, I took this last year, or hey, this was 3 years ago, provide a date, whatever. And sometimes you can think color is peaking, but it's really just an older picture. So don't be afraid to comment or message someone, say, hey, is this recent? Or follow state park profiles that are constantly sharing those video updates, those park updates, color progression updates. There are so many in the region that do this. And it will give you a good idea of where the color is and when you can plan your trip out or when you should plan your trip out to hit those perfect colors. The next thing I want to talk about is shooting in all weather. The worst weather makes the best photographs. And many times that's true, but that also doesn't mean go stand on, an overlook and gale force winds and an absolute monsoon of a downpour, because you're probably not going to get anything really that exciting. But I guess it's possible. Obviously, safety first, use your discretion, don't put yourself at risk. But I have found over the years that avoiding fair weather photography has pushed my work above and beyond where I thought I could actually go with it, because I'm not shooting in just bright sunny days or perfect sunrises and sunsets. You want that dramatic light in your scene, in your images. And that's going to be found on those rainy days, those cloudy days, where that dappled light breaks through the storm clouds or rain clouds, whatever might be overhead. And at sunrise and sunset, if you catch the end of a storm or the leading edge of a storm at sunrise or sunset, you're going to get some really cool colors. You're going to get those nice, rich oranges and yellows and pinks and purples that reflect off of those rain clouds or the clouds above, especially if you are lucky enough to catch a storm as it's breaking up at sunset. The sun dips below that cloud line. It's going to light it up. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Just because it's raining, just because the forecast might say, oh, it's going to be 80% chance of rain from this time to this time, my best advice is look at the weather report once, leave it at that. Don't keep going back to it. Don't keep stewing on it and just thinking about it, because eventually you're going to talk yourself out of going. Look at it once, make a plan, bring what you think you're going to need, commit to it. Shooting in all weather, it will take your photography to the next level. Fog, drizzle, that mood and depth. Rain enhances color saturation, and it adds that sheen to leaves and rocks, which, again, you can control using a circular polarizer. So stay open to those opportunities. Stay open to those possibilities. You've heard me say it a couple times in different episodes, and I believe this goes all the way back to the very first or second episodes, but part of being successful in the field is seeing opportunities where others see challenges, and getting out there, committing, just saying, I'm going to do this. It's raining. I'm going to bring a raincoat. Maybe I bring a rain sleeve for my camera. It's really hot. Well, I'll bring some extra water, maybe some hydration packs, whatever the case might be. You got to get out there and try, and it'll almost always pay off in some way. But if you stay back, you're going to miss any opportunity you might have had. So shoot in all weather, embrace all conditions, be prepared for all conditions, and it'll take your photography a lot farther than you think. Finally, last but not least, think big and think small. Doug Jones and I touched on it in the last episode, but there's a couple different ways to do this. I'm talking about simplifying your scene. And what I mean by a couple different ways to do this is adding elements, or I should say, including elements that contribute to the story, but you don't want to take too much out, and you don't want to include too much either, because let's face it, it's going to get distracting, or the story is just going to fall flat if there's not enough elements to convey that emotion, that resonance that you're trying to share. So when you're in different situations, you can do a lot of different things. Of course, everybody wants to get up to these bluffs and overlook, slap on their 14 to 24 millimeter and shoot the whole scene. And yeah, I'm not saying anything against doing that. If that's what you're into, by all means, shoot what you like, shoot what you enjoy. But take a second, take an opportunity to take that 14 to 24 off and put on a 100 to 400 or a 70 to 200, whatever you've got. Put your telephoto on. Try to isolate some of those details, because you'll find that you can create some pretty powerful scenes through simplification. Now, I mentioned there's a couple different ways to do this. One way is to start at your widest focal length. In my case, that'd be 14 millimeters, and slowly develop the scene on tighter and tighter focal lengths until you feel that you've found something. You feel that you've told the story well. The way I prefer to do it is generally starting at more of the telephoto side and kind of bringing elements back in slowly as I go. Some of you who have met me at Lake of the Clouds Overlook, or have met me at Starved Rock, or countless places I've met you guys, you've probably noticed that I usually have my 70 to 200 millimeter on, and I get asked a lot of questions. They're like, people usually ask, you're shooting landscapes and, you're sitting here in the middle of this forest, you've got a 70 to 200 on. What are you doing? And it's all part of that simplification process. It's all part of breaking down a scene by the sum of its parts and then figuring out, how can I tell this story, and what parts of this scene are going to tell that story best? How do I include that? Each scene is going to call for a different approach. Sometimes you may have to start wide and work your way into telephoto. Sometimes you may have to start telephoto and slowly work your way out, going wider. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no right or wrong approach. But just take your time. Set up on a tripod and start adjusting. Use different focal lengths. Use different filters. Zoom in, zoom out. Don't forget to zoom with your feet. Move left, right, forwards, backwards, whatever you got to do. Raise that tripod up and down. Whatever you have to do. And eventually you'll find that perfect scene. It'll just click. You get that feeling in the pit of your stomach and you just know, this is it. This is my shot. Yes, I did it. And then you can just sit there and capture the scene, wait for the light to be right, whatever you got to do, enjoy it. Those moments are what I'm looking for when I'm out there. Those gut punches where you just know, yes, I have it. It worked. And admittedly, yes, sometimes it will take a little bit of time. But my philosophy on this has always been, I feel that it's better to spend the time working on a scene that's personal, that's unique, that's mine, than it is to just go out and stomp out 100 okay compositions somewhere else when I know I've got a great scene before me. That challenge of sitting down, working with what you have, and finding the solution, it's magic. It's absolutely one of the most rewarding feelings. I encourage all of you listening, try it out. Give it a run. You'll be really happy with the results, and you'll see what I mean when you're actually putting it into practice. But telephoto for those intimate details, you can mix scales and create a very well-rounded story of the season when you use all focal lengths, and just don't get stuck in that locked in way of thinking of, oh, well, I'm at the overlook, better put my 20 millimeter on and I'm just going to stick with this. Or you get to a waterfall and think, oh, I got to shoot this wide. I want to get the whole scene. Try your telephoto. Or if you're shooting a scene that you would otherwise shoot with a telephoto, try a wide angle, try a mid-range zoom. You got to think big and small and think about those elements, how they all come together, how they all sing that song. You'll tell a way better story once you've paid it a little attention, given it a little bit of your time. Always works out. That's it, guys. My favorite places in Illinois. 3 of my own tips from my own bag of tricks here. I'm excited. I'm very excited. In less than 72 hours, I'll be kicking off my fall color adventure. I am recording this on Wednesday, October 1st. So when this posts in a couple weeks, I'll actually be preparing to leave the Upper Peninsula and begin my journey down into Wisconsin. But I hope to see some of you guys out there. I hope that you've enjoyed the countdown to fall color. There is one more episode coming out here in the countdown to fall color. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be a really good episode. I'm going to do some field recording on my trip coming up here just a couple days. And we're going to record our first episode live in the field in the middle of a forest. And we're going to see how this goes. So stay tuned. As always, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much for your continued support. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody.